All right, let's start here. Heavy rains overnight have led to flooding in Soweto and other parts of Johannesburg. Roads and homes have been affected. Let's take you to our reporter, Pule Letshwiti-Jones, who's on a chopper checking the situation around Johannesburg. Pule, the last time we spoke, you were in Lenasia South, and I wonder if you've moved in other parts of Johannesburg and Soweto in particular, and what you've seen.
Yeah, Maseko, first let me start by apologizing for the bad signal or connection as we are still on air and are experiencing load shedding stage 5. But what I can tell you is that, some of
It's so unfortunate that we are unable to connect properly to Pule, but as you heard from him and as I told you earlier in the show, we are on stage 5 load shedding, and that normally affects network as well. And that's why Pule is unable to show you that bird's eye view of how Johannesburg looks after the heavy rains last night. But there you go. A little earlier on, this is what he showed us in Lenasia South, where houses and roads have been submerged in water. Of course, a lot of people have been unable to even leave their homes. He told me a little earlier that he didn't even see a single car on the roads. That's obviously because people have not been able to leave their yards at all. People have also been complaining about their houses also being submerged in water. And actually right now we're showing live visuals from Pule Letshwiti-Jones. And let's try him one more time. Pule, which area is this? And a little earlier you were telling me that you haven't even seen a single vehicle moving on the roads.
Yeah, definitely, Maseko. You can see how bad it looks. Some of these cars have been damaged by the floods here that have disrupted these communities here. We're still in Lenasia, but you can see some of the public lights as well have been affected by this heavy rainfall. And this essentially means that law enforcement officials may have to come here and start to issue out warnings as to whether some of these residents residing in these areas here should be evacuated or not. We've seen total disruption in some of these communities where cars have been hard hit by these heavy floods. Of course, we haven't seen most cars on the roads. This essentially means that some residents here have until these floods can subside.
And I wonder what it means then, Pule. I mean, I know you haven't really been on the ground to be able to speak to people, but, you might remember that earlier this week on Monday, City Power already said the hailstorm that we experienced in Gauteng affected their infrastructure. And I imagine what you're seeing there today will probably have a ripple effect on other services as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen some of the electric pylons which have been affected by the heavy rainfall. What I can tell you from what I'm seeing is that residents are in desperate need of help. Some roads have been blocked. Some buses have actually been affected here. And essentially, this now means that law enforcement officials have to come over. In fact, what we've seen, Maseko, we've spotted some boats now here on these floods trying to help and, of course, assist some of the residents who are in desperate need of help. We do know that some areas have been affected with a blackout as well. So this means that apart from load shedding, they do not have electricity, and they now call for urgent assistance to see if they can actually be rescued from this matter, which seems to be escalating. I'm just going to try to show you some of the visuals again in the shots. As you can see, wondering if you can see some of the boats that are now on here by community, which are driven by community members to try and help some of the residents here who are in desperate need of help. It's quite terrible from what we're seeing here, Maseko, and many residents are losing some of their belongings.
And Pule, while I still have you, I think I'll just take the opportunity to be able to show the viewers more of those visuals that you're giving us from there on the chopper. I'm wondering, Pule, if you've seen any houses also being submerged. You're saying that there might be, the call for people to evacuate their homes even.
Yeah, definitely. We just spot a couple of blocks and houses that have submerged. This is quite dangerous as well. Looking at, we haven't spotted emergency vehicles from law enforcement, but rather seeing how and to try and assist each other. I can tell you right now, they already
All right, and we all know how Lenasia, previously we've covered very violent protests in Lenasia where, people who pay bonds and in that particular area have been complaining about land grabs. And I think at some point, I'm not sure if my eyes were deceiving me, I think at some point Pule was showing us visuals of people's homes, in the form of shacks that have been submerged in water. And I can imagine the stress that they have. Schools have still not closed, and I'm not sure, Pule, I'm just imagining, I know that matriculants are probably mostly done with their exams, but I'm wondering if children have been able to even make it to school, if parents, for instance, had to even call their jobs to say they can't make it out of their homes today.
Yeah, Maseko, we're just right now coordinating with the pilots. Out of park, we are now being told that some vehicles have actually submerged into the floods. So this basically tells you that communities have also been affected by structure that many have been complaining that drainage systems are not which are causing massive disruption.
And that's exactly what I imagine as well, Pule. We remember when there was floods, those deadly floods, in fact, in Durban. I think those were the worst in South Africa, at least in the last 10 years. Those floods in KZN, a lot of people were complaining about the lack of infrastructure development and maintenance in those areas as well. But Pule, just correct me if I'm wrong, were there also shacks that you were showing us there in your visuals that were also submerged in water?
Yeah, definitely spot a few as well. And it seemed as though some residents could not. That some residents had already evacuated their areas before this disastrous floods got out of hand to try and save their last personal belongings.
All right, it's unfortunate. Pule Letshwiti-Jones visuals there keep getting stuck, but of course we will try and reconnect to Pule as often as possible. So far he's been showing us an area called Lenasia South in Johannesburg. It's the south of Johannesburg, and as you can see there on your screens, this is these are images that he and his camera colleague showed us a little earlier on. You cannot even see the roads in that particular area of Lenasia South. Some roads are not submerged in water, but those are main roads in particular. And he's also trying to get his way with the pilots. They're trying to get their way to an area where they've been told that there's been cars that have been damaged and submerged in water as well. But they'll reconnect to Pule Letshwiti-Jones as soon as connection enables us to.